This Monday morning edition of Pucks Across Borders on Sports Addict Live and Total Apex Sports, brought to you by the one, the only First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code Sports Addict, get 10% off every sports card in the entire First Round Collectibles store. And they have an ongoing sale up to 50% off dozens and dozens and dozens of cards. And with our promo code Sports Addict, not only do you get 10% off of regular price items, but sales items as well. Head over to firstroundcollectibles.com today. Use promo code Sports Addict for 10% off regular price and sales priced items. Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, boxing, whatever you want, they have it. Head to firstroundcollectibles.com today. That's the number one, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am not the same as these cats.
And welcome to Pucks Across Borders on a Monday morning. Lots to get into from the weekend on Sports Addict Live and Total Apex Sports, brought to you by First Round Collectibles. I am your host, Mark Sauter, and I am stoked to get into a little bit of controversy, some upsets, a potential series clinching game by Andre's guys, the New York Rangers, tonight. And an incredibly, I was going to say the most exciting series so far, but I feel like all of these series have had a lot to offer. Even Boston, Florida, which I think after game 1 and 2 thought would maybe be the more boring series of the four, but even that has proved to be extremely dramatic. We're going to get into all of it, but first, as always, like I said, I am Mark Sauter, and at the top of your screen, right next to me, you read his work about the NFL, a Gridiron Heroics. John, how are you feeling on a Monday morning, bro?
Definitely some controversy in each of the games yesterday. And honestly, for tonight's slate, I think 3 to 4 teams playing are in must-win situations, and looking forward to breaking that down.
And right at the bottom of your screen, you read his work about the NFL on Gridiron Heroics. You read his gambling picks on Winners and Winers. You read him on Total Apex Sports, talking hockey, amongst other things. And you see him all over Total Apex Sports on YouTube and on X, talking football, basketball, baseball. The man talks about it all. We are currently in the background talks of a Briar show for curling next December. More information to come. Andre, how you feeling on a Monday morning, bro?
Feeling pretty good. Thought you were going to keep the curling bit in the bag. You know, I wanted that to be a surprise, but
you got to tease the people, you know?
Yeah, I can't wait to get that out of here. Nothing like some good curling action.
No, and I mean, it's been an inside joke amongst us, and I throw some famous curlers up here on the screen just for my own laughs. I don't really care if anyone really understands. I like to laugh, you know what I mean? And in the spirit of transparency, I'm just going to come right out and say this because it's bothering me to no end. And like you said, like we talk about the NHL, we talk about sports, we try to be professional, but we're people, and let's just be transparent. I have no bottom teeth, and I wear dentures, and I left them not at my house. So I'm rocking the show. If you hear a little lisp or a little not proper pronunciation on the consonants, I don't have teeth this morning, guys. And I literally just realized that as we started talking. I was like, something doesn't feel right. So you know what? It's the playoffs. We play with no teeth. We play a little hurt. It's just what happens. So we're just gonna have to roll with it, boys. So speaking of no teeth, speaking of playoffs, what was that, Andre?
Said you don't need teeth. The Panthers got them all for you.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And I just had to get it out there because it's instantly, as soon as I started reading the first round collectibles ad, I was like, oh, something's not right here.
You're getting into the spirit of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
That's right. It was kind of, I shaved off my beard, so I figured I had to make up for it by just losing my teeth. Like something had to balance out. But speaking of the playoffs, no teeth, playoff beards, all that nonsense. Last night in the NHL, the opening game of the doubleheader, the Boston Bruins hosting the Florida Panthers, down 2-1 in their series, and they head back to Sunrise down 3-1. Lots of controversy, lots of drama. So let's talk about the game. And John, start with you. First of all, your thoughts on the I believe it was the game tying goal, if I remember correctly, to set the scene. Sam Bennett cross-checks Charlie Coyle into Jeremy Swayman, battling for the puck, puts the puck in the back of the net. The call on the ice was a good goal. Coach Montgomery for the Bruins challenged the goal, and the play stood as called on the ice. I tried to not defend the Bruins as much as I possibly can. To me, I feel like they have an issue here, but we'll get into it. John, starting with you, what did you think of the call, and what did you think of the game in general?
I'll start with the call, since I think that's definitely the most notable thing that happened last night in that game. Like you said, it was the game tying goal at the time, and it happened at a point in the game I felt like Florida was really starting to slowly gain momentum, and I think that event put it over the top for the Panthers. In terms of the call itself, I had plenty of time to look at it. The review period went on for a good 5 minutes after Boston challenged it. And I was watching the game with my dad last night, and we were both sitting there looking at several replays of it, and we both came to the same conclusion. We both thought it was a good goal. I certainly thought it was, and I get the argument Boston had. I certainly think it was worth a challenge, considering the way that game was going and how significant that goal turned out to be. I definitely understand the Bruins challenging it. I don't hate it. But I do think the refs made the right call, and I know some people are going to have a problem with it, but here's the way I look at it. I've seen stuff like that go on all year, including some calls against my team during the regular season where you could argue goaltender interference. But the reason why I don't think it was is mainly because of where it happened and who he did it to. Like, it was pretty close to the net, I won't lie. And I think Bennett certainly knew what he was doing, getting himself some space. I won't argue that it was probably intentional, but
of course,
I think by the letter of the law, Mark, you know the exact rule better than I do, but the letter of the law, in my opinion, is that if you look closely at that replay, I forget who the player was he pushed into Swayman, but Bennett pushed the guy while he was outside, while Bennett himself was outside the crease, which to me, I think that means it's a good goal because the guy just happened to run into Swayman. It's bad luck for Boston, maybe a good play by Bennett too. You can make that argument, but Bennett got himself the space he needed for the goal, and it's unfortunate that Swayman that event basically left the net defenseless for Boston, but I think it was just good luck for the Panthers and bad luck for the Bruins. But to me, it's a good goal. Mainly because Bennett was out of the crease when he pushed him. If he was in the crease, I would have a different opinion there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
As for the game itself, I felt like the Panthers had a bad first period. They should not have. I feel like Bobrovsky was a little off his game last night early on. Like, he allowed 2 goals I think were preventable. Florida, I think even in the first period was arguably outplaying Boston, and like they were down 2-0. But I swear by the second period on, Florida outplayed Boston by such a wide margin that I felt like by the end of the second period, it was inevitable that even before the Bennett goal happened, it was inevitable that Florida was going to win that game. Like when they were down 2-1 and got that first goal, I said to myself, and I told my dad this as well, Florida's winning this game. It's just a matter of when.
Oh yeah, big time.
I felt like Boston just could not hold it together any longer. And like the first period got them a lead. I think the same problems arose. Like Boston had no offense. They were lucky to get 2 goals last night. I believe they had like 18 shots on goal that whole game. And Florida exploded. Really that simple. You could argue maybe Marchand being out helped with this, like put Boston away. Maybe they at least keep the game tied if he's in there. But I think my takeaway from last night, besides the controversial goal, to me is I think that was the game that made me convinced Florida's way ahead of Boston. Like I was holding out hope, not holding out hope. I felt to myself Boston could steal a game in this series, but now I'm starting to think Florida's going to wrap this up in 5. And Florida and New York are both up 3-1 right now. Florida feels like the series is actually over, whereas the Canes, I'd be a little more worried about. I don't think they're going to win the series or anything, but Boston just feels even more buried right now.
Well, it's an interesting point. You just made me think of, like, if the Rangers finish off this series tonight, which, I mean, I think they will, but like, who knows? You got to give props to Carolina on the other side. But if the Rangers finish this off tonight and Florida finishes this off tomorrow, I think both of those West Coast series are going the distance. So because it's the conference finals, I don't think we're going to see what we saw between round 1 and round 2, where there's that like overlap where Dallas Vegas game 7 was on the same day as Rangers Canes game 1. I don't think we're going to probably see that again. So both of these teams, if the Rangers take care of business and the Panthers take care of business, both these teams are going to come into round 3 extremely rested. So that's going to be really interesting to look at if it plays out that way. All right, Andre, good call, bad call. What did you think of the game?
I think it was a good call. I understand why you have to challenge that, especially at that point of the game. But it was a physical play, and it just happened, to bump into Swayman. But the contact, like John said, happened outside the crease. And I think even if Swayman didn't have that body in front of him, he's not getting over in time to save that. So I think it was a good no call. I think it would have set a bad precedent if they had overturned that. So, I mean, maybe if they had called it goalie interference and then it stood, that was different. I just don't think there's enough where you can change a call like that. As far as this series, I think all 3 of us said Panthers in 5. I don't really think we're too surprised that they're dominating this one. Game 1 happened, and it was a fluke. And now we're seeing the Boston team we've seen all postseason. It's really that simple. 18 shots on goal, that's not going to cut it. They scored 2, which is a minor miracle for them. And it still didn't matter. They scored 2 early ones, and it still didn't matter. They finished with 18 shots. Again, they didn't reach 20 shots on goal. There's just that offense is a disaster right now. And you're not going to beat the Panthers scoring only 1 or 2 goals. And the Panthers are too fast, physical, aggressive, where you can at least put shots up, make the goalie freeze the puck, whatever, like make them play in their zone a little bit. The Bruins just aren't doing that. I'm not going to say it's too easy for Florida, but they're making light work of them, and I don't think it's that much a surprise. And I see Joe asked if it was rust from the Bruins, and I don't think it's rust. Joe's in the comments. I don't think it's rust. I think it's just
Ice rust. I love that term. Ice rust.
I do
I'm
like
taking
that.
it. I'm stealing it, Joe.
We should start using that.
Yeah.
But no,
Ice
I just don't think the Bruins are that good. We said it towards the end of the regular season. They're not the big bad Bruins anymore.
No.
There's no perfection line. There's no PK that's tops in the league. You're more worried about them scoring than you are scoring on them when you have a man advantage. It's just two great goalies, top heavy group of skaters, nice home ice advantage, and well, all of those things get neutralized in the playoffs, especially when you play a team like Florida. So they probably should be, which is down 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you guys both said it. We've been saying this all along. Like, the Panthers are exposing what we saw from the Bruins in round one. This is nothing new. The Bruins have not been able to generate offensively all postseason. And when they were in round one, it was taking advantage of mistakes. And the Panthers don't make many mistakes. Ice rust would be an excellent term for the Panthers in game one, as John called. I did not think that was going to happen, and John called his shot, and he was absolutely right. The Panthers came out flat, and the Panthers took advantage of it. Listen, with regards to the call, I'm a little bit more gray on this than you guys are. I do understand your point, John, about the cross-check happening outside of the crease, and that makes sense to me. I think that the reason why the NHL agreed with the referee's call is because that was the call on the ice. I think if the refs called it goaltender interference right away and disallowed the goal, Florida would have challenged it and the call would have stood. Like, I do think that either way that this decision went, I think the NHL was going to agree with what the call on the ice was. Because if the call on the ice was goaltender interference, is there enough there to overturn that and to make it not goaltender? I don't think so. But then on the other side, I think they took into account what you said, John, and that the cross-check happened out. The part of it that I find difficult is that the NHL was quoted in saying that Swayman was not what was the exact quote? Basically that Coyle being pushed into Swayman didn't keep him from making a move on the puck. And that is absolutely not true. Like that like he absolutely restricted Swayman from making a move. Would the puck have gone in? I mean, Andre, you said it, probably. You can't really if would it have, wouldn't have, I don't know. Like Bobrovsky earlier in the playoffs threw his arm out and made one of the greatest playoff saves that I've ever seen. Like, you just never know. To me, the part of it that I disagree with is just that the idea that Coyle didn't restrict Swayman. Like, that was the quote from the NHL. And it's like, well, no, he absolutely did. Like, would he have made the save? I don't know. Probably not. Maybe not. But that was definitely restrictive. I guess this opens up a whole kind of can of worms that we won't get into today. It's it's the same thing, and we said this before on the show throughout this last year. It's the same thing as what is a catch. Like, this rule has become so like objective or subjective, whatever, that it's like, I really do think they just need to draw the line in the sand, like in the crease, out of the crease. Is his foot in the crease? Not in the. I know this play was a little bit different, but I think that it was the right call because of the call that was made on the ice. I think if it was called no goal, then I think the NHL would have agreed with that as well. So the other thing here, too, and to answer your question, Joe, I think that John already said this, that, or was it Andre? Both of you guys probably said it, that the Panthers were dominating that hockey game. Like, even in what was a very lackluster first period for the Panthers, they still outshot the Bruins 15-5. Like, it wasn't like the Panthers weren't getting their chances. Like, they weren't playing their best, and they still had 10 more shots than the Bruins did in the first period. The shots were 13-11 in the second period, so Boston tried to keep up. But in that third period, with or without that goal, that non-call, whatever you want to say, the Panthers outshot the Bruins 15-2 in that third period. I think the Panthers were coming, and to answer your question, Joe, I think that may have psychologically just kind of caved the Bruins in a little bit, because that goal was coming one way or another, and it just happened to come in a controversial fashion. I think the bottom line is, we've said this over and over again about the Bruins, they just don't have enough. Like, their depth is just out, and without, like, if Brad Marchand plays that game last night, do the Bruins win? I don't know. I don't necessarily think so, but they can't afford to lose him, because when David Pastrnak is your only consistent threat, that's easily mitigated if you're the Florida Panthers, right? Like I think Pastrnak, he got a goal, but I think he only had like 2 or 3 shots on net last night. And so if you're the Bruins, you just don't have the pieces, and you got away with it in round 1. But the deeper the playoffs go, the better the competition, and you're not getting away with it. Jeremy Swayman, I thought, had a phenomenal game. John, you were spot on with the over 28.5. You could have bet over 38.5, and your bet would have hit or just missed. Just missed. So if you bet over 37.5, then the bet would have hit. So Swayman played an absolutely brilliant game. It's not enough against this Panthers team, man. The last point I want to make about this is new footage was shared with us yesterday. How we didn't see this before yesterday's game, I don't know. But game 3, when Sam Bennett hit Brad Marchand, and they had that kind of new angle of the punch to the side of the head. If he was suspended for that play, if it's a suspendable play or not, we can get into that conversation. But if he was suspended on that play, he doesn't play yesterday, and then that goal doesn't happen the way that it happens. Like, there are some repercussions from that play that I think are kind of interesting to dive into. We won't do it now. I think that time has kind of passed, but the bottom line is, Boston Bruins fans, I have Boston Bruins fans in my life. I talked to one this morning. You've had Sam Bennett on your team for how long has Brad Marchand been in this league? Like 14, 15 years. You've had Sam Bennett on your team, a much more skilled version of Sam Bennett on your team for a long time. Like, this is what Sam Bennett is doing to your team is exactly what your captain's been doing to opponents for years. So, in the wise words of Ricky from Trailer Park Boys, what comes around is all around. What comes around is all around. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's move on. The nightcap, Vancouver in Edmonton for game 3. Vancouver wins 4-3 thanks to a late goal by Bouchard, I believe, for the Oilers. But the Canucks, they win. That plus 170 tasted nice, and absolutely. And I said it yesterday. If you're going to give me those kind of odds for the Canucks, I'm going to bet it. And if I lose, I lose. but I'll take plus 70 for the Canucks all day long. And if I'm not mistaken, let me just double check this real quick. Tomorrow night, back in Edmonton, the Canucks are plus 180. So we'll talk about it more tomorrow, but I'll take that. And if I lose, I lose. Andre, what do you think of that Canucks Oilers game last night?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember what I said yesterday, but I said this time around the Canucks are going to get more than 19 shots, and it's going to lead to more than 3 goals, and they're going to win. And apparently, I'm a liar because they needed 18 shots to get 4.
Yeah, I know.
So good job proving me wrong, boys. But 2 power play goals, one nice and early to tie it up. Bezer thought he had a hat trick in the first period. I mean, that really tells a story, right? The Canucks fell behind 5 minutes in, just immediately not only bounced back, but took a commanding lead. And they just held on to it because despite the fact it's their 3rd string goalie, they have the better goalie in this game. I woke up this morning and I saw a headline from The Athletic, and it says, I don't remember the exact quoting, but it says Stuart Skinner has created a goaltending disaster scenario in Edmonton, or something to that effect. And I think that's all you need to know about this series. The Oilers, for the past 2 games, have but they've skated very well. I'd say they have the better of Vancouver. And just on that front alone, probably deserve to be winning. But you don't need to generate much pressure against Skinner. He has what we think Georgie has, and that's can't keep the puck out the net itis. Not a real thing, but
it's real.
It's the same story for this Oilers team every single year. Can't fill out the bottom half of that roster, cannot find a goalie that can perform in the playoffs. And now you're looking at the offense needing to score 5 goals every single game to win. And while they're capable of doing that, especially if they get a bunch of power play opportunities, you can't depend on any playoff roster to score 5+ goals every single time out. Not even if you outshoot the other team 36-7 in the final 2 periods. It's just not feasible. So the Oilers, they had 2 power play goals themselves on 4 tries. That's good. They had another even strength goal. But you need stops.
The bottom line, right? I mean, listen, I said this at the beginning of the series. Stuart Skinner has had a tremendous regular season. He was a massive reason why the Oilers won all the games that they did, 18 straight, 17 straight, whatever it was. He was a massive reason. I think the first 2 games of that winning streak, the Oilers allowed 3 goals. Other than that, the rest of that streak, he allowed 2 goals or less every single game. He had a phenomenal year. He's still gettable. And the Oilers, or the Canucks rather, are proving it. And especially in game number 1, or game number 2 rather, game number 1. But even last night, a lot of these goals are not world class, like Pavel Bure, like deking your pants off. Like that's not what this is. And so you allow 4 goals on 18. Did he allow 4 goals or?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
No empty netter.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, we can go back to the Boston, Florida conversation for this too. Like, the Canucks had 11 shots in the first period. 11, which is a decent amount for one period. They had 7 shots for the rest of the game. And you lose 4-3. Like, that can't happen. I said this yesterday too. Shilovs. I can't say that without saying she loves me. I can't do it. I keep trying, but I can't do it. I said this yesterday. I'm done with this conversation of, oh, he's a 3rd stringer. This guy's playing friggin' awesome. Like, he's playing so good, and he's doing it every night. Like, 45 shots for the Oilers, and you win 4-3. He's playing just out of his mind. He's playing terrific, and I'm glad that they've stuck with him. I also said this yesterday, talking about the depth problem for the Oilers and how this problem has put me in a position where I am betting Vancouver every single night. And like I've already said, if I lose, I lose. But the depth problem for the Oilers has become another massive problem yet again. You have Hyman. The guy had 8 shots on net. Can't fault that. No points. Draisaitl, goal and an assist. 5 shots on net. Can't fault that. Even Evander Kane got a helper, only 1 shot on net, but he had 4 hits. Connor McDavid, 4 shots on net, no points. That's all you had. Like, without those guys putting up big numbers, you have nothing. Nothing. Fogle, 3 shots on net. Okay. Bouchard, a goal and an assist. He's a massive part of the offense, even as a defenseman. He had 6 shots on goal. You had Ekholm and Nurse, who are 2 staples on the back end. They had 4 shots on goal. All that is fine, but the rest of your team is putting up nothing. Like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 1 shot. Corey Perry, 1 shot. McLeod, 0. Holloway, 1. Connor Brown, 0. Janmark, 1 shot. Like, if your big guys aren't putting points up, then nothing else is happening. And that's going to be a problem for this Oilers team moving forward. And I don't think they can win this series like that. I don't. And unless Skinner has some February 2024 revival, it's not happening for this Oilers team. And I hate to say it, but the Canucks are... We were worried about the Canucks heading into the playoffs, no? Like, I picked the Predators to win that series. But the Canucks, they're showing their true colors right now in a big way. And I don't think... I mean, if the best player in the world wins this series, would I be surprised? No. But based on what I'm watching right now, I think Vancouver wins this series, and they might do it in 6. I don't know. We'll see what happens. John, what about you? What did you see in that game last night?
First off, shout out to Pucks Across Borders as a whole. We got that plus 170 last night with the Canucks.
Absolutely.
I think we had a clean sweep on that pick. So, yeah, that was definitely one of our better picks of the playoffs. But in terms of the game itself, I think there's like 3 things that stood out to me. One of them is a fun one, and 2 is just kind of killing the Oilers a little bit here. All right, so the first one, Skinner. You guys covered this well already. He has been the inferior goalie in the series. I think there's no doubt. But I think this is getting taken to another level in Game 3. 1, because he was on home ice. 2, he only had 15 shots that he faced, and he allowed 4 goals. And 3, he got taken out of the game. Pickard came in at the end of that game, and I think he faced a few shots as well. So I'm going to shoot my shot here and say maybe have a hot take. I think Skinner gets benched next game. Andre had a good point, or Andre noted that the headlines are really blaming Skinner for Edmonton's struggles in this series. And while he's not 100% of the issue, I think he's a large part of it. And Edmonton's reaching the point of the series, in my opinion, where they need to shake things up. Skinner got taken out of the game last night for Pickard. So I think this is kind of a bold prediction. I think Pickard starts next game. I really do. I think we're getting to the point where Skinner's playing so poorly they have to do something. You cannot give up 4 goals on 15 shots in the playoffs, or really in the regular season for that matter, but especially the playoffs. You just can't. I think that Edmonton's reached a point where they have to do anything to change things up. Second take for Edmonton there. Mark covered the depth situation pretty well with how all the players did last night. I just want to touch on McDavid's part of that for a second with a pattern I'm noticing this series. So I've noticed that if Vancouver takes McDavid out of the game, they win. Like games 1 and game 3. Game 1, he had 1 assist and no shots on goal. Game 3, he had no points last night. And yeah, he had a few shots on goal, but again, no points in the game. Game 2, McDavid, I don't remember, he had a goal and multiple assists. So, and Edmonton ended up winning that game, and they barely won for that matter. So, it seems like a big key for Vancouver is if you take McDavid out of the game, you're gonna win. That's just the pattern I'm noticing, and I think it addresses the lack of depth, as Mark put it, with his rundown of how every other player is doing so far. Last thing I'll say, and this is more of a fun one for Vancouver, we got robbed of a hat trick twice last night from Boeser.
Yeah.
Like, after they got the third goal, I thought Boeser had a natural hat trick, which would have been really impressive because that was all in the first period. But way later, they changed the first goal to Lindholm. And we were talking about this in the pre-show. Mark mentioned that when Vancouver got the fourth goal, the Vancouver announcers were like, sure, it was going to be Boeser again. But no, they give it to Lindholm again. So,
I know.
So I'm getting convinced that there were a couple of whales that just bet on Boeser getting a hat trick for the heck of it, and the sports books couldn't afford to take the loss. So, because there was some weird stuff going around that last night for him to get robbed twice, one of them being a natty. So all in all, I think that's the worst thing that happened to the Canucks last night. Other than that, yeah, death prevailed. But the Edmonton struggles, I think, on a more serious note here. Skinner, I think, is getting benched next game for Pickard, mainly out of desperation. And McDavid, I think it's getting clearer and clearer. If he doesn't produce, the Oilers don't win.
Well, a couple things before we wrap up this conversation. Number one, I get what you're saying. I would be shocked if Skinner doesn't start tomorrow. And like, you're not wrong. I don't disagree with you, but Calvin Pickard, like, what are you getting? You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing with the Canucks and Casey DeSmith and going to Shelov's. Like, Casey DeSmith is a backup goaltender who is fine, but he's not great. And you're making a gamble by going to the third stringer. It's one thing when you're Jeremy Swayman, but you have, Allmark behind you. Calvin Pickard, he's done what he had to do in the regular season, but I don't know, man. Like, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with the premise, but to go to Calvin Pickard, like, I don't know if they're going to make that move, but we'll see what happens for tomorrow night. The other side of this that I just want to quickly say is I spent a large part of my rundown, basically all of it, talking about the Oilers side of this. That's not to take any credit away from Vancouver because their depth is showing out. JT Miller is having a night every single night. Brock Besser, this guy is playing out of his mind. Like, the Canucks are playing very, very well. Zadorov has become the messiah in Vancouver. Like, this guy is just doing everything that you need him to do to win hockey games. He's scoring goals. He's putting Evander Kane in the bench. Like, he's doing whatever he has to do. And so everything I'm saying about the Oilers is not to take away from what the Canucks have done, because they are showing their true colors right now. And I'm really impressed with what we've seen from them.
And Peterson hasn't even done anything in the playoffs for the most part.
Dude, I thought he was going to come out last night, man. He had a great game too. And just, again, crickets. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I don't even think, I'm going to double check here, but I don't even think he got one shot, I think. No, none.
He didn't get any points last night. I'm pretty sure.
No points, no shots, 2 hits. He was a +1. I guess that looks nice on the stat sheet, but yeah, super curious. But more on that game tomorrow night. as they are back in Edmonton for Game 4 with the Canucks up 2-1. All right, let's move on. 2 games to break down tonight, and the first of which, the Carolina Hurricanes. On the road now. They salvaged their season to a point, got Game 4 win in Carolina. They are now back in Madison Square Garden. The New York Rangers. Oh, look at this. The Rangers aren't plus money anymore. That took way too long. -110. -110. Even across the board for Carolina and the Rangers. The over is 5.5 at -108. The under is -112. -1.5 for the Hurricanes is +225. So it's even money, but the Hurricanes still get the automatic puck line. +1.5 for the Rangers is -278. Andre, let's start with you. Shout out to Chuck, by the way, for tuning in with us. Appreciate you, man. Andre, what do you see in this game tonight? Carolina, New York are your boys taking it home tonight.
Well, first of all, I don't want this crap, Vegas. Don't believe in us now. Get out of here. It's too late. Let's just even it up.
I will say, sorry, Andre, I will say the odds just shifted. -112 now in favor of the Rangers. So they're officially favorites tonight. There you go.
I don't want that. Let's keep it underdogs. Nah. What I say? So there's a few things about this Rangers team that's driven me crazy all year. You guys know because you've listened to me talk about them way too much. So I apologize for that. But one, it's that they start slow. They were in the regular season not a good team in the first period. I don't remember the exact goal differential, but it was either even or like slightly negative. But the point is, especially not sharp. I feel like the Canes, for the most part, have gotten them there. And then when it came to closing periods, they were terrible at it. They just, for some reason, give up a ton of goals when they're so close to getting into the locker room with a clean period. It was, and in this series, the Canes have scored 7 times in the final 5 minutes of a period out of their 12 goals. So those are 2 areas where I'd like to see the Rangers sharpen up. But 94, second round, they went up 3-0, lost Game 4, won Game 5 in the Garden. So that feels good. 2, it's May 13th. It's a great day in Rangers history. 2013, Henrik Lundqvist, 35 saves in a Game 7 win. 2014, Henrik Lundqvist, 35 saves in a Game 7 win. 2015, Henrik Lundqvist, 35 saves in a Game 7 win. Obviously, this is not a Game 7, but Igor's going to have a great game. Over 29.5 saves, -125. I think I'll take a crack at that. And I think, as always, I'm going to take the Rangers to win because even though they fell behind 3-1 in Game 4, they clawed back. They had a ton of dangerous chances. They honestly, I feel like they could have won that game. That was one of the first times where it felt like had more scoring opportunities. They just, kept hitting the crossbar, kept hitting the post, deflected at the last minute wide on an empty net. The chances were there. They skated very well after that 3-1 deficit. And I don't think they want to go back to Carolina. I think they pounce. I think they take an early lead. I think they don't look back because they just want to get some rest, move on to the conference finals. You don't want to drag this series on any longer. So -112 now for the Rangers. And I don't know, all these games feel like have been over except for Game 3. But I still like the under in this series more. I'm going to stay away from the total, but
yeah.
Rangers money line, Igor over 29.5 saves.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with that total, man. I'm scared of totals for all these series, man. The Oilers Canucks take the over. I'm there now. I was hesitant yesterday. I have no idea why, because that passed no problem. But I'm right there with you. I'll share my thoughts in a minute. John, what did you see in that game? Or what do you see in this game tonight between the Rangers and the Canes?
So I said in our opening segment, in our intro, that I believe 3 out of 4 teams playing tonight were in must-win situations. Carolina is obviously one of them because if they lose tonight, they're eliminated. So that's a given. But this may be a surprise to some people, but I think the Rangers are in that position too, to an extent. And I'll say why. I think what Andre touched on is very accurate here. I do not think you want any business going back to Carolina in Game 6. And I said this when we were recapping the Boston-Florida game last night. It feels like it's a when, not if, when it comes to Florida wrapping Boston up. I don't think there's any life left in the Bruins. Carolina, I don't feel as strongly on that because I think they're a better team than the Bruins for sure. And we've seen what they're capable of 5-on-5. So my argument here is you cannot give the Hurricanes an opening when you have a chance to close the door. Like, if you give them life, they can go on a run. That's kind of my take on it, especially with Game 6 being in Carolina, potentially. I think it's very, very important for the Rangers, even more than the Panthers when they face their Game 5 tomorrow. I think it's very important for the Rangers to close the door while they have home ice and while Carolina doesn't have a ton of momentum going. I think you can write off Game 4 as a desperation game. Carolina had to have it. They wanted to avoid complete embarrassment of getting swept. Carolina came out of the gate very strong, but I think an encouraging sign for the Rangers is that they still managed to tie that game despite being down 3-0 at one point. And it was arguably Carolina's best game or best start in the entire series. I've been wrong every time I pick a side in this series so far. I think Game 3 was the only one I just bowed out on. The first 2 games, I picked Carolina, and Game 4, I picked the Rangers. So forgive me if I'm just a hex or a curse. I'm going to pick the Rangers again here to the dismay of Andre.
Ooh.
I just genuinely believe they're going to close it out, and I 100% agree with Andre's take about Igor. I think he bounces back. He has to be upset he lost that streak. He had a 30-game playoff streak going on of not allowing more than 3 goals. I think he goes back to allowing 3 goals or less tonight. It's just a matter of if the Rangers can back him up. Also, the home ice advantage I expect to be electric in the Garden. I think maybe bigger, and this is hard to top considering how many wild atmospheres the Rangers have had. I expect this to be the most electric atmosphere of this year's playoffs yet in the Garden. So give me the Rangers money line tonight, and I'll co-sign Andre's take about the saves as well. I think Igor bounces back.
Yeah, big time. And I mean, listen, we talked about it. Andre, you've talked about it. We talked about it in the preview for the last game. This is what the Rangers do, and this is what Carolina does. They outshot their opponents, and the Rangers tend to get outshot. But it doesn't matter. It's about the quality of chances, not the quantity. And I see the Rangers closing this out tonight as well. I see the Rangers winning -112. I'm all about it. The total, like I said already, I'm a little bit scared of it. Panarin, I see him coming out and having a big game. Give me a Panarin goal. Just checking on that prop. +140. I'm all about that. And I think Vincent Trocheck, man, I think this guy's worth a sprinkle every game right now. He's +205 for a goal tonight. I see the Rangers winning this game and winning the series, getting a head start on the Panthers to rest up for the Eastern Conference Final. All right, one more game to get to. We got the Dallas Stars, Colorado Avalanche. Dallas is up 2-1 in their series thanks to a 4-1 win the other night. Dallas +114 on the road. Colorado is -135. If I'm not mistaken, I think these were the exact same odds in Game 3. The over is 6.5 at -105. The under is -115. +1.5 for the Dallas Stars is -205. -1.5 for the Avalanche is +170. John, we will start with you. What are your thoughts? And full disclosure, since this episode is all about transparency, I have a very cranky son. So you guys take it away, and I will be back in a moment. John, what are your thoughts in these games for this game tonight?
Gotta love live broadcasts. For tonight's game, I think Dallas is the only team of the four that doesn't really have to win this game today or doesn't feel a ton of pressure to win. I think Colorado needs to win this game because if they don't, they'll fall behind 3-1 going back to Dallas with only one more home game left in the series. I might start to believe the Avs are done if they don't pull it out tonight. But I weirdly think they're going to. I know I've been strangely optimistic about the Avs and strangely pessimistic about the Stars. I do think there's reasons to be concerned with the way the Avs have been playing, but I think, well, number one, they need a strong first period. I think that goes without saying. Like the all three games so far, they have been terrible in the first period. First two games in particular, but even game 3, they got down early. That needs to change. I don't think they can afford to start slow again. Which is why I think today they come out of the gate. They come out of the gate, get a goal or two immediately. I'm taking the Avs 60-minute line, and I'm taking the over. I feel like this is a good game to bet the over because the Avs only scored 1 goal in game 3, and I'll be shocked if Dallas holds them to that again. I know they've been doing a good job defensively, limiting the Avs' opportunities with the puck, but this team is too talented to only score 1 goal again, and I don't trust Georgia on the Avs to contain Dallas to 1 goal. So I feel like this is a good game to bet the over in I believe it's 6.5. Yeah. I trust there to be 7 goals between these two teams. And I think the Avs are going to have to score 4 or 5 to win, for the record. Dallas strangely does not get a lot of shots on goal. It's kind of a similar situation as Vancouver. They're getting enough to get the job done. And Georgiev has not been the best goaltender in the playoffs. So I think he needs to step up a little bit. I'm not sure if he will, but I think it's more I trust the Avs offensively to bounce back in a strong way in this game. And I think this is what I'm relying on when it comes to my 2 predictions here. I think the Avs get it done in regulation with a strong start in the first period for once. And I got to look up that prop, the odds of the Avalanche getting a goal in the first period, because I kind of like that tonight. Mainly because I think they are due for a strong start. And so 60 minutes, look out for an Avs goal in the first period just to change things up. And the over, 6.5. I was foolish yesterday to pick an under in a Western Conference game. So overs from here on out.
Well, I mean, this game went under last time.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, but do you think that the Avalanche are going to score only 1 goal this time around? That's the thing.
No.
I don't think they will. To me, I don't know. I'm taking the same approach that I am with the Colorado or with the Vancouver Edmonton series. It's a little bit different because strangely enough, I believe more in Colorado as a whole than I do in Edmonton right now. But that being said, Dallas is a very, very good hockey team. They're a very, very good road team. And when their goaltending plays the way that it can, they have by far and away the best goaltending, not only in this series, but in the Western Conference right now without Thatcher Demko in the Canucks lineup. I'm taking Dallas to win again tonight. And what I'm really going to be interested to watch, I can't wait for this game, by the way. No disrespect to Rangers, Carolina. I feel like that game, we know what we're going to get. It's going to be a 1-goal game either way. With this game tonight, I'm really interested to see what changes with the Avalanche as far as the neutral zone goes, because Dallas was stifling them every chance they had, was really, really frustrating them. We didn't talk about this, but there was a specific power play in that game, in game 3, where like Nathan McKinnon was on the ice for like 30 seconds and was like, F this, I'm getting out of here, and got off the ice. And I thought the TNT broadcast did a great job at showing that the Avalanche bench was so caught off guard that they didn't get a fifth skater out on the ice for like a solid 5-6+ seconds. So I'm just really interested to see what happens as far as the Colorado Avalanche when they're not getting what they want in a game. How do they respond? I think Dallas is just playing a really good complete games. I think, like I said last time, I think a lot was made about Dallas blowing big leads rather than Colorado giving up big leads. And that's still the storyline for me heading into this game. I think Dallas has been the better team. I think they've been the more complete team. Colorado got away with it in game 1, came back, got the win. Didn't get away with it in game 2. And game 3, they could never really get going. I know that 2 of those 4 goals were empty net goals, but they still count. So for me, I'm picking Dallas again. And same thing with the Oilers series. If I lose, I lose. But I like what I've seen from Dallas, and I can't say the same for Colorado. So give me Dallas plus 114. I agree with your over assessment. I'm staying away from this total as well. These playoffs have made me a complete coward when it comes to betting these totals, so I'm staying away from it. But I'll take Dallas. And a Wyatt Johnston goal hasn't hit in a couple games, but I'll keep hammering it. Plus 175 for Wyatt Johnston to score tonight. Andre, what do you got?
I can't. I'm with John, where I just can't see Colorado only scoring 1 goal again. And the Stars deserve a ton of credit for not only getting these big leads, but for the most part defending pretty well. Particularly crunch time of game 2 and then the entirety of game 3. But it's in Denver. We know what this Avs offense is. We know what they did to Dallas all season up until game 3. So you can pencil in the Stars for at least 3 goals every game this series, I feel like. I think this is a game where you pencil in the Avs for at least 4. They're going to bounce back. They're going to be ferocious. I think they're going to win this game, and I'm going to take the over again, as I have been all series. And I'm going to take the Avs. I don't think I'm going to take the Avs in 60 minutes, but I'm going to take the Avs to win at minus 135. I see this being a 2-2. Like I think you said, Mark, earlier, both Western Conference series, you see them going 7 games. I kind of agree with that assessment, and I don't think a 3-1 deficit going back to Dallas is in the cards for this Colorado team. So Avs minus 135 and the over.
Absolutely love it. All right, let's wrap up the show, as always, with our best bets brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code Sports Addict, get 10% off every card in the First Round Collectibles store, including sales items. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off, tons of cards. 20 becomes 30, 30, 40, 40, 50, 50, 60. You get the picture. Head over to firstroundcollectibles.com today. Use promo code SportsAddict for 10% off regular price and sales price items. That's the number 1, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. John, what do you got for your best bet, bro?
Going back to the totals, Avs Stars, give me that over 6.5 all day. In my breakdown of the game, I've said I'll be shocked if the Avs get held to 1 or 2 goals again. I think they're due for a big burst, or at the very least, they're going to make Dallas earn it. And I don't trust Georgiev on the Avs side to contain Dallas enough to keep this under. I'm feeling a 4-3 game on one way or the other here. I feel like it'll be the Avs, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Stars take it. But either way, give me the over 6.5.
Andre, what about you, dude?
Yeah, the sports books, they keep lowering the odds for Mika to pick up an assist. They're catching on to me. It's been a 15-game stretch, just pure money. They have not caught on to the fact that Alexis Lafreniere has been balling out in these playoffs. 10 points in 8 games. He has at least 1 point in 7 of the 8. He got time with the first line in game 4 because he was skating that well. And to reward Peter Laviolette, he had the game-tying goal. He banked it off Freddie Anderson. He's absolutely a star right now. So Alexis Lafreniere to pick up 1 point is plus 105, and I love that.
All right. You guys got me? My Wi-Fi just went wonky. You got me? All right, great. All right, cool. Andre, I think if this was John, you'd be upset. I hope you're okay with me doing this, bro. I'm taking the Rangers money line. It's not at that beautiful, beautiful plus number that it's been all series long. But I'm taking the Rangers money line, man. I've said this a million times. That series against the Devils last spring has stuck with these guys. They've had a burr. Is it a burr in their saddle, under their saddle? I don't know what the proper saying is, but either way, they're ready to go. And they've been out for blood all playoffs long. They lost their first playoff game in the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs the other night. And I think they close it out tonight in New York, Madison Square Garden, getting rested and ready for whoever comes their way in the Eastern Conference Finals. Give me the New York Rangers minus 112. I like the 60-minute line is interesting to me because the Rangers are minus 112 on the money line. Carolina is minus 108 on the money line. But the 60-minute line, Carolina's plus 135. The Rangers are plus 150, which is interesting to me. And I like that plus 150, and it is very tempting. But I'll stay away from it and just go money line minus 112.
Yeah, Mark, I'm not going to lie. I've seen the Carolina offense when they pull the goalie, and I do not like that 60-minute line whatsoever.
Fair enough.
But I do like where you're going with this one, and I'm glad it wasn't John. So thank you, John, for having me.
Thinking of you, Andre.
Our parlay today: Rangers money line minus 112. Alexis Lafreniere over 0.5 points, 0.5 points. I never know how to say that. Plus 105. That's the 7 o'clock. Shift over to the 9:30 Stars Avalanche game. We got over 6.5 and minus 105. 3-leg parlay is plus 501.
Absolutely love it. It was a close call last night in the best, or the last few nights in the best bets. We're going to absolutely hammer it tonight. Absolutely love it. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. As always, whether you're watching live or throughout the day, we appreciate you. Whether you're watching on Sports Addict Live or Total Apex Sports, we appreciate you. Check out TotalApexSports.com for lots of great content with regards to the NHL playoffs and every other sport known to man. FirstRoundCollectibles.com, promo code SportsAddict for 10% off sales and regular priced items. Enjoy the games tonight. We'll be back tomorrow to break it all down. Thanks for watching.